This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
We're presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code DAN for a special offer when you sign up. That's code DAN, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Billy, for several months now, I have heard you in the other room having conversations about trying to get a boat, trying to get a ship, trying to get a yacht. And then I turn on First Take today, and Stephen A. Smith is returning to work in an orange suit with a graphic that legitimately reads, "Is it too early to panic for the Cowboys?"
Is it?
It's a good question.
They had 17 penalties. Michael Irvin's on a boat. Stephen A. Smith is on a boat. Why are we on a boat? Do we know how that sounds? Does it sound good, or are you hearing the engine hum? There's a degree of difficulty. You've been trying to put together a boat for our show for a while. Where are we in boat negotiations?
Well, now it seems like we lost the boat battle, right? And ours wasn't even a boat. It was a floating mansion. Don't sell it short. And we had all kinds of grand ideas we were going to have on this floating mansion that just haven't happened yet. And I don't know who we can blame other than Hildy, to be perfectly honest with you.
Fair. Totally fair.
Not to, point fingers, but geez, we've been talking about this since November. What's going on?
Hildy already dressed all of you down while we were watching the boat show. Yeah. She said, you know how they got a boat? I bet they gave their producer a date.
Wow. All bark and no bite, that Hildy.
How does it sound? Because you guys,
it looks fake.
You guys thought it was a green screen because the water, it's not just a boat; it's a boat that's moving, and he's near. Stephen A. is in an orange jacket near the motor, and I would think that would be loud.
It's not going very fast, though. I just heard it in queue. There's some ambient noise, as you should have if you're broadcasting live from a boat. And also, I don't think that's a yacht.
No, it's not.
It looks like a pontoon.
Yeah.
It looks like a leisure boat. There's a few engines on the back.
Little speedboat.
I would describe a pontoon as a leisure
Look at the angle,
boat.
Mike. Look at the angle now. It's definitely a yacht. It's definitely some sort of yacht.
Do we know why they're on it?
It doesn't have the railing. Actually,
why
it's got to be a lot larger to make room for all the production staff and catering and Stephen A's jackets.
At first, I was thinking it was the Hornblower, which if you've been in your 20s in New York City, you've probably been on a booze cruise on the Hornblower at some point. It goes up and down the Hudson, up the East River, and then back. And then everyone gets off and pukes all over the bushes in the West Village. But no, it looks like it's much, much smaller than the Hornblower.
Who's driving? Because Molly's the captain. She has the captain hat.
Acting very irresponsibly right now for a captain.
Uh-oh. We just had a boat.
Maybe it's on auto captain.
Mm-hmm.
The graphic
there's the ferry.
also
We're
reads,
not on the ferry.
How much leverage does Lamar have now, Stugotz?
A lot. I can't. The suit is amazing. It's perhaps the finest suit he's ever worn.
Creamsicle.
Yeah, Tennessee Volunteer colors, kind of. He has all the leverage in the world, Dan, because he's I don't understand what the Ravens are doing. Do the Ravens know what I would do to have Lamar Jackson as the quarterback of the New York Jets? Do the Ravens know what Dolphin fans would give to have Lamar Jackson be the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins?
Nothing.
You'd give a lot. You would. Mike, there was a time as a Browns fan, when you were a Browns fan, that you would have given anything to have a guy like Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. No off-the-field issues, works very hard, has won an MVP. Like, what are the Ravens doing? And Lamar Jackson should not play a down of football until he has signed that contract. And if that bleeds into the regular season, so be it. But Lamar Jackson deserves to be, I don't know what order we're in right now. I don't know who was the last highest paid quarterback in the NFL, but whoever that is, Lamar Jackson should be making more money than that person. He is a quarterback that teams would literally kill to have.
That's not literal.
Well, I think some would. I know as a Jet fan, Dan, I would love to have him as my quarterback. We've never had a quarterback that good. And I know the Jets, if they thought they had a quarterback that good, they would sign him immediately. I don't understand what the Ravens are doing. It's confusing. It really is. What does Lamar have to do?
Would you kill for him, Stugotz, to be a Jet?
I would.
He probably could run the ball less and be a more accurate thrower, and that would probably get
He's
him.
doing just fine.
No,
Again,
I know. I'm not arguing that he's obviously great, but You don't think that a quarterback that runs a lot, there should be some debate of like, oh, do we pay him?
He's missed 2 games.
He didn't miss 2 games. He missed like the final stretch of last season. They went winless. It actually helped the argument to pay Lamar Jackson because once he went out in that Browns game, they didn't win another game.
I would assume that whatever the hang-up is with Lamar Jackson is years more than money. Because if Mahomes is your standard setter with 15, it becomes the comparisons on, do I want to pay 15 years worth of my quarterback needs to be more athletic than everybody for my game plan to work?
Also, part of the negotiation is that Lamar's representing himself.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that introduces complexities to the situation that we're unaccounted for, if Baltimore feels like they can finesse a situation to their advantage a little bit, but it's an added layer to these mega quarterback deals that we've never really had. No one's ever represented themselves in these.
He missed the final 4 games last year, and you're right, they lost those games. He has 84 touchdowns, 31 interceptions. You throw in the 21 rushing.
That's a lot of interceptions, especially last season. His interception total ballooned. He's finally showing that maybe some of the running is catching up with him. If they gave him this deal like 2 years ago, they would be well positioned.
Where
coming off 36-6.
Where you coming up with the sentence that he's in decline, or like what are you?
The turnover numbers last year, I would say, are a bit of a concern. Not just the interceptions, but the fumbles too.
I mean, he's out there by himself. He's never had good wide receivers. They have a decent running game. Again, I understand what you're saying. Like 31 interceptions, 13 of them were last year, but 84 and 31 over 4 years, plus 21 rushing touchdowns. I mean, the guy is an incredible quarterback.
Make no mistake, they have a good running game because he is a part of that running game.
I know.
They had a mash unit at running back last year.
He's your entire team. He's been your entire team
He's
for
his own
4
play
years.
action. He should.
He's exceeded all expectations.
Coming out, I would pay Lamar Jackson. He's been spectacular and proven everybody wrong at every turn. He's certainly worth it. He's won an MVP. He's done a lot for that franchise. He should get paid. I'm just trying to push some of the opposition.
Chris, what are you guys talking
I'm getting
about?
seasick watching Stephen A. right now. They're bouncing up and down. It's getting a little choppy.
It's a big boat, too. It has at least 4 engines that we can see. I'd say like a mini yacht, and then logistically, Whitty and I are talking about, like, is there a backup team in place? Who is that backup team? What do they do if they lose connection while on the water?
Is it because Stephen A. is returning from vacation and they are celebrating it by just randomly and gratuitously, superficially, and wonderfully putting it on a boat?
You got to come back with a splash.
Yeah.
Sweet, Dano.
It looked like they were about to head back to Pier 17, but then they turned around and now they're going
Jess is doing this thing. She's flexing her New York muscles.
Yeah,
she keeps pointing out
she's
things.
Like
she's like, "That's where I used to live. That's where
Mm-hmm.
this person lives." She's flexing her
like,
New York
there's
muscles
Citibank
right now.
headquarters.
I
Text
wanted
my friend that works there. Stephen A. is outside your window. Look out the window.
Charlotte Wilder.
If
No,
they don't end up at the
different
Statue of Liberty, this is a big miss.
They actually
right?
are really close to it, though.
Really?
They're in like New York Harbor. They already kind of went by where it is, though.
Are you producing the segment, Billy? Is that how you? That's the big punctuation. 2 hours from now, they argue whether it's too early to panic on the Cowboys by the Statue of Liberty because it replaces the Statue of Liberty as our greatest feeling of freedom.
Is the
ability
crown
to
still
argue
open?
this?
The Statue of Liberty crown? Because
No,
if
I
they did
think
it up
it's-
there, that would be great.
I think it's been closed for a while. Maybe they're going to Staten Island.
It's weird to do the Deshaun topic on a boat. He's like giving a real serious thought and he's bouncing up and down.
I love what just happened to Whittingham, where he legitimately laughed, and then somewhere within the laughter, echoing as he heard it go out over the air, it was, "Should I be laughing at that?"
Yeah. 100%. Oh no, the connection's going foggy.
Oh no!
But also,
This is
but
what happens.
so whatever remorse I feel laughing, Molly is wearing a captain's hat while Stephen A. is doing this.
We can confirm through an aerial shot of a drone that is indeed a yacht.
Yes.
How it's branded, too,
Well-
on the top of it.
Well, they went to the drone shot because I think they lost picture from the boat, so they had to go to their backup
Is
drone
Molly
shot.
seasick? She looks like she's a little bit seasick. She looks like she's.
So does Michael. I gotta
Also,
be honest.
observation here, Stephen A. seems to be playing hurt because his hand is either wrapped or he's wearing brass knucks.
He
And
had
I'm not ruling out
he
the
had
brass
shoulder
knucks.
surgery, so I don't know. Do you think they had like a safety drill for like
like the mustard drill beforehand?
Like, check out where all the life jackets are.
Like when we had CPR training and no one went.
3 people showed up.
We had CPR training.
Hey, I said I wasn't going.
Can you guys explain to me, because I evidently have aged out of being able to understand how it is that Kevin Durant and James Harden are palling around again. If someone came into my work environment, I found it so curious to see them training in Barcelona and everything's fine. For 6 minutes, these guys wanted to be together. And then James Harden didn't want to be there anymore. And they're still friends as Kevin Durant. I don't know who Kevin Durant gets along with, but I'm surprised to see him getting along with James Harden, as now Philadelphia becomes one of the teams that Kevin Durant reportedly would be interested in going to. And it made me wonder, did James Harden come in and see the Nets organization and the same way that Kevin Durant does? Where Kevin Durant's not blaming James Harden for anything that didn't work there.
Kevin Durant and James Harden are still friendly. I wonder who maybe James Harden might have had a problem with in his time in Brooklyn. If only there was someone in the organization that didn't play for 3/4 of the season and is famously difficult. I wonder who James Harden had a problem with.
And there were reports of what James Harden, his face looked like while that person was saging the locker room. If only these details were out there. I would, let me tell you something. I would Venmo at least $500 to whomever you tell me has footage of what James Harden's face looked like as Kyrie Irving was saging the locker room.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le
Give me
Batard Show.
the NFT. I would, whatever you want. I want to see his face.
Would you pay $500 at Le Batard Show? Would you pay $500 to see James Harden's face as Kyrie Irving saged the locker room?
I have an unpatriotic take that I feel like now is appropriate for.
Oh, boy.
They're passing by Lady Liberty off in the distance.
The mother of freedom.
First time I saw Lady Liberty, I wasn't super impressed. A lot smaller in person than I was expecting.
Really small.
I thought that this would be like a giant monument, and I was like, that's it? Like, I need binoculars.
It was when it was first erected, but now there's skyscrapers that are 5 times its height, like less than 10 miles away.
Exactly. Get with the times is exactly right, Woody. Maybe we update the wardrobe a little bit. I feel like there should be
She's in a crop top and high-waisted shorts.
Yeah. We make like a national law that the Statue of Liberty has to be the tallest thing in America.
Ooh, I love that.
You were unimpressed. You were expecting something much
taller,
larger.
bigger. Yeah, like off in the distance, I was taller.
Do you think the person who's driving this First Take boat is listening to the show and they're like, oh, they're still in the C block. We got to do another loop around Manhattan, guys.
It's frozen now. It's frozen now. This is a dangerous game. It's not a bad idea in theory, but they're having a lot of connection problems.
Seems to be going well.
This is probably why it is that you don't do this very often. You don't see this done all that often on boats.
Correction. The problem with that TV is our connection. They're fine on the other one. Yeah.
They're still moving.
So
they at least have an excuse for it.
So they are able. It's not a problem with anything that they're doing. The degree of difficulty much more difficult than what we're doing, which is just trying to get a television to work.
They are having far more success actually producing this activation than we are just simply watching it on this TV.
As football, Stugotz, as the uniforms returned this weekend, and this wasn't for me this weekend, okay, because I am happy that football is back, but I'm not particularly interested in watching what was offered this weekend. But Chris Cody is so starved for his Dolphins mattering in any way that he has already talked himself into loving not just Mike McDaniel's sideline demeanor, but everything about him as a coach, including that he has decided to go the route all in on, I'm going to be a quirky coach. I'm going to be somebody who's unusual. I'm not going to go the copycat way of being Mike Zimmer because everybody in this sport is Mike Zimmer. I'm going to be different about it.
Well, I was watching the game on Saturday and I was just like I was telling my friends, I'm like, this guy, he just looks the part. And then someone was trying to point out but when do you see the successful, quirky, friendly coach? And I was like, that's actually a good point. I mean, is Steve Kerr a little quirky and friendly? I'm trying to think of like the successful coaches in all these sports that are like affable, right? They're all the Belichicks of the world and the Popoviches.
Right.
Even Spo. Like, is Spo friendly? No. Who are the success? Like, I want to find another example of like a quirky, fun with the media coach. So is McVay?
They end up growing. McVay gets along well with the media, but they end up growing to hate all of us because we're an impediment that don't know as much as they do about the stuff that we're watching and ask questions that they have to answer, but just to avoid headlines.
Joe Madden? Just throwing out a name like,
he's a terrible manager.
He was very quirky.
He's awful. I am with Chris Cody on this, where he appears to be very confident. He's also, my wife does this once in a while. She'll see someone on TV, and so she said to me, "Who is that?" I said, "It's the new Dolphin head coach. Why are you asking? You never ask." She said, "Sneaky good looking." He's got this thing about him. I mean, it's like a nerd quality, yet he seems to be cool, and he's pretty good looking, according to my wife.
At Le Batard Show, when your spouse asks, "Who is that?" about somebody on the screen, are they asking because they find them attractive?
But that buys you like 2 years, right? Like you could be quirky and like good looking for like 2. No, because this
when
year
you're
you
1
blame
and 3,
Tua.
when you're 1 and 3, it's not as cute.
But Tua's the fall guy this year, right?
Yeah.
And then McDaniel has next year, and then if things don't work out,
I think quirky is only fun when you haven't played a game and or you're winning. Not losing and quirky is going to get you buried faster.
What buys you more time, being quirky or having pretty privilege?
Does he have it though?
I don't know. I mean, ask Stugotz's wife. I guess she's like the arbiter of deciding for the show. But maybe.
Sneaky good looking. I have not thought of him. I don't think of him as bad looking. I don't think of him though as who is that when someone is walking past the television screen. That's Kingsbury.
Great wardrobe choice with the gray sweatshirt. Great hair. The hair looked fantastic. Glasses choices, the sneaker choice. He did everything possible to put himself in the who is that conversation. Don't know if he's there. Might be outside of my top 5 personally, but he did a great job.
I could do without the inactive list before preseason games because when it came out, it basically said don't watch this game because there was like 50 guys out for both teams combined.
That's why you're just watching for him on the sideline. I was literally just watching. I was like, let me see what he looks like. Let me see what he looks like touching his headsets, looking at his sheet. I'm telling you, it's just the little thing. And he passed all the tests.
Really?
All of it.
The sniff test.
That's the thing. And the stuff with sneaky good looking, you don't really notice a coach until you see him on the sideline, prowling the sideline.
Yeah.
And he had a prowl. Like, you wouldn't think, hearing him talk, you wouldn't think he would have a prowl.
He was going after it.
He's got a prowl.
How's his hand on the knees concerned bent?
Oh wow!
How was that? That's a big one because I knew Kingsbury was handsome, and then he did that. I was like, okay.
Also, what's your demeanor when you have an injured player and you go out to him? Because you don't want to be too panicked. You want to be confident, but you want to let him know that you care about it. It was perfect.
Really?
I think the move you're talking about, leaning on your knees, because I don't know if you guys saw Pete Carroll sprint down a sideline the other day, moving pretty good for a 70-year-old. I think that move you're talking about, hands on the knees, that's a young man's game. I don't believe that's an old man's game.
I don't think any coach should have their hands on their knees ever. It just shows a weakness that I don't want to see in my head coach. That's a coordinator move, not a head coach move. Once you graduate, no more hands on the knees.
Stugotz, the end of that game, the Bucs did not come back because Tom Brady was not participating in the festivities. And he is away for personal problems. I got to salute, not personal problems, personal matters, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I've got to salute Tom Brady for his ability at that kind of fame to keep things private when he wants to keep them private, because usually we don't allow too much of that. We don't respect too much of that. But the thing I wanted to ask you about Tom Brady missing time is put this on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Does Tom Brady need to practice ever? Does he need to practice ever? And if Tom Brady comes in and says to you, hey, I'm going away for 3 weeks. You're the coach. You're the new coach.
Mm-hmm.
What?
You let him Steve Trask. I mean, Kyle Trask, whatever his name is, or Blaine Gabbert. Yeah. I mean, you let Brady do whatever Brady wants to do at this point in his career. Who cares? He wants to come back week 3. Let him come back week 3.
And it should be noted, Tom Brady's never really done anything like this, so I imagine he's dealing with something
saying he can do
quite
whatever.
serious.
I'm saying he can do whatever he likes. I just don't think there are a whole lot of people that the audience would give that kind of carte blanche to. And
there's not a whole lot of people playing quarterback at the age of 40. I mean,
45.
A big difference. Do not short him those 5. Because I had seen the other thing done before with mixed results.
He wants a family vacation. I mean, before the kids go back to school. I don't know.
We shouldn't be
Never had one of those.
hypothesizing. Shouldn't be hypothesizing right now.
No, I don't know whether it's something bad or not, but I am more interested in who gets to do that. In that particular,
Not me. I get yelled at every time I go anywhere.
in that particular world.
I'm also very young, and I have pretty privilege.
And you got away with it.
Yeah, there weren't any consequences.
Yeah, like
were
you
there?
did go.
You're still here.
Not for long.
Tom can do whatever he wants, right?
Yes.
I wonder if he takes advantage of that in any way.
Life jackets are out. Uh-oh. I think it's time for sink or swim on First Take today.
Oh, wow.
They did tease it was coming up.
That's why they're on the boats. Stugotz here for my friends over at Simply Safe. Home security isn't a game. No, it's not, but a lot of companies act like it is, trying to upsell and overcharge you every chance they get. This is why I use and trust Simply Safe Home Security. They are different. Simply Safe is advanced technology that puts the safety of me and my family first. Easy to set up. If I can do it, anyone can. There are no long-term contracts, no hidden fees, and the peace of mind that I get with Simply Safe Home Security is second to none. Simply Safe monitoring agents truly care about your well-being and are highly trained to help you keep calm and safe during stressful situations, staying on the line with you until help arrives. How about that? For caring and peace of mind. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/DLB. Go today and claim a free indoor security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring. That's simplysafe.com/DLB. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Dan Le Batard.
Earlier in the show, the question was asked, what would Stugotz do with one invisible day?
Stugotz.
One day where he could be invisible. We decided that during banking hours, he would choose a weekday. He would rob all the banks in the universe from 8 to 5. And then at night, he would alter sporting event results by being an invisible man in games he had bet on.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
To answer your question, Dan, like I don't think Tom Brady wants to miss practice time. I like everything that we've heard about Giselle's dislike for his relationship with football and the hard work is that he's got to get up at 6 a.m. and on vacation in March to throw footballs around. Like, I don't think he wants to be missing the time as much as the team probably doesn't need it. They'll be fine. They'll, if they enter week 1 with him practicing little, they'll probably be fine. But I don't think he wants to be missing that time.
I have said a couple of different times, and I know we've run out of ways to talk about Tom Brady. But I don't know that in my lifetime, Stugotz, I have ever seen anyone at any position in sports break through so clearly to the other side of whatever the norm is supposed to be that you go into a season that represents him at 45 years old and give me all the other quarterbacks in the sport who have a touchdown over-under of 35 for the season. And it's just... it's like a computer simulation of I've never seen anything that's this much different than everything that came before it, where excellence is hard and, Peyton Manning gets to win 2 and Aaron Rodgers gets to win 1 and Peyton Manning is done and he's done and Hall of Fame eligible and the Tom Brady's still at 35. What the what is that?
45.
45.
Don't short him
I was
those
doing
10
35
years.
touchdowns. I wasn't doing 45 years old. I'm doing. How are you 10 years older than your touchdown count? And both numbers are absurd. Like that a guy goes into the season. You can give me 5 quarterbacks who this season are going to be the over under on them would be over 35.
Well, I believe the answer is only one. It's Josh Allen. He's the only one who's over that. Patrick Mahomes is 34.5.
Rodgers is now 35?
No, he's 31.5.
Wow.
Courtesy of our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook.
That's wild.
Can you imagine what we're talking about, though? Like, how is it that we can cover this sport as much as we do and devote as much time to it as we do and have somebody who's such an outlier that Mike Schur is telling us last week, the stat that he has won more playoff games than any quarterback in the sport, just if you start counting after the age of 37, which is the age that Roethlisberger, like you saw, he's been done. You saw Roethlisberger's been done for every other quarterback before this one, Stugotz. It's why Max Kellerman was so comfortable being on First Take all the time, shouting, this is where the precipitous drop is. This is why I was comfortable shouting. There is no way to see physical decline in a quarterback who's wearing the same uniform if the arm strength is gone, but maybe accuracy on deep passes is where you notice it. And Tom Brady couldn't throw the deep ball 7 years ago anymore. And now
he was saving him for now.
At 45 years old, the over-under is where you put Josh Allen, who's a stallion by any physical measure.
There were 7 quarterbacks who threw more than 35 touchdowns a year ago. There were 2 who threw north of 40. Stafford and Brady. I mean,
and my guess is if I ask you right now, they are going to turn Julio Jones into just do button hooks out there. No one can guard you, right? Just do tight end stuff. Just run these routes. Julio Jones is trying to reinvent himself. Julio Jones' look spent for a couple of years. Julio Jones' body doesn't look like he can run past many people anymore, but it's still a giant body, and it's exactly what plays tight end for them.
That's what I thought they were going to do, and then video came out from training camp where he was running a 9 route, and he got separation, and Brady hit him in stride. So yeah, he's one of the greatest deep threats ever. Why not see if he still has that in his locker?
Is that what's going to happen? That it's not just going to be a fountain of youth for Brady, but it's a fountain of youth for spent receivers too?
I think when you're Julio Jones, Dan, you don't go there with the idea of being a tight end. You go there with the idea of reinventing your career. Like, hey, I could still do all of it. Not just the button hooks. Don't just throw it up to me. I can do all of it because I'm playing with Tom.
Do you remember at the end how many teams Randy Moss played for? Do you remember at the end how he bounced around because everyone thought, oh, I can get one more season out of him? Julio Jones has been, Stugotz, like busted up physically since the foot. The pounding that he took as the only guy that Matt Ryan would throw it to, playing for those teams, his body. It's rare, Stugotz, where you see
he hasn't been good in 3 years.
Bodies
Julio Jones
broken down, and so he's a name. And I know you fall in love anytime with a guy who has a name. But I do believe that Tom Brady took. Remember what it is we thought the Patriots had? Oh, they can take all your guys and win with them. He took that with him. He took. No, I'll just come over here and meet me in Tampa. And again, he's a few years younger than Stugotz.
He did it with Gronk and Antonio Brown. Like, what makes you think he can't do it with Julio Jones? Julio Jones is going to have a tremendous season. He really is. I mean,
but Gronk and Antonio Brown, we had a feeling that would work. We didn't see them be bad, and another team just say, no, we can't do that because this player is just simply not good anymore. We saw teams do that with Antonio Brown, knowing that he was good because he was just too much of a problem. Julio Jones didn't get booted from the Titans because he was a problem. It's because he wasn't worth what they were paying him, wasn't worth the capital that they spent in acquiring him, and just flatly wasn't good for them.
But you expect him to be good for the Bucs, right?
In however many snaps that they're going to use him in whatever situational football, I don't think he's going to pass Russell Gage on the depth chart or Godwin or Mike Evans. They have so many weapons over there.
It is a bit nuts. Since you mentioned Antonio Brown, I wanted to get to this because I didn't believe it was real. Now, I still don't believe the quote is real. Him retweeting it doesn't mean that he would ever say anything like this, but he did endorse it. And the quote is, my biggest regret in my career doesn't involve calling my GM a cracker, or showing up to Raiders camp late in a hot air balloon with frozen feet, or throwing rocks at the UPS driver. And it definitely doesn't involve taking my shirt off and doing a victory lap around the Jet Stadium mid-game while throwing up deuces. My biggest regret is that I'll never get to see me, Antonio Brown, play a game live. Sure, I can watch the game afterwards, but I can't imagine what that was like for you all to see something like that, like watching the Beatles or Jesus perform at Red Rocks.
So he has like a ghostwriter. So he's okay with the quote, but he didn't actually come up with it.
I thought I had to look 2 or 3
like
different
Drake.
times. I thought it was butt crack sports. I thought it was ball sack sports. I'm like, okay, this is another one of those things that is fake. This cannot be real.
Well, it was concocted. It was in the lab by the sports memery, and it made its way virally. And then Antonio Brown saw it, got a chuckle, and decided to endorse that sentiment by putting it on his own personal social media handle.
I just can't imagine what it is to read that about yourself and say, I'd like to share this with others. Like to look at what I have done to my career. You guys have been blasting Kevin Durant's decisions here for a long time. Whittingham said Whittingham was worried that Kevin Durant might come after him because Whittingham said publicly that in this incarnation, if you played out Kevin Durant's career 100 times, this might be the worst version of it. Antonio Brown's career, Stugotz, what has happened over the last 4 years, one of the great stories in the history of the league, a 6th-round pick being that good at running routes. That was an amazing resume that he just endorsed. That list of things that have happened to Antonio Brown.
What's wild is the rap thing is actually working out for Antonio Brown.
No.
What do you mean?
Yeah, like he's not a bad rapper. And now he has a song that is kind of gaining traction that everybody wanted to laugh at. And it came with a funny dance. And now everyone in the NFL is doing the put that shit on dance. And it's just like with the fingers. And he doesn't sound bad. Yeah, everybody's been doing that dance
That
lately.
would be great if Antonio Brown could make it
Rap
as
star.
a career reinvention. He's not going to play again, right?
I think we lost signal and we've gone to the studio
Oh,
now.
no.
There's
Yeah.
Keyshawn.
Keyshawn's in there doing with
there it
Dolphins.
is.
Thing.
They're like, do Dolphins now, do Dolphins now.
What just happened
I don't
here?
think Dolphins can actually sink, can they?
Put it on the poll, Billy.
I think they float if things go awry for a
No,
Dolphin.
No, but the question is, will Tua, if the Dolphins
Oh.
were to sink or swim, but the question is, will Tua Tagovailoa sink or swim? Which I think I've seen that question asked on debate television about 100 times since January.
It's a common misnomer that immediately after you die, you'll bob to the surface. Your lungs fill with air, and then all the gases in your stomach have you buoy up to the surface, depending on a couple factors, weather being one of them.
Put it on the poll, please, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. When a dolphin dies, does
We're
it...
learning a lot of weird things today. Jessica's a river expert. Mike's a dead fish
Mike,
expert.
how do you know so much about this?
About dead bodies and how they bob to the surface? Well, I'm glad you asked, because at that Seaport studio where this show is emanating from right now, is they had very smart to have backups in place in the event that the shot from...
I love the library idea of if it goes down, just go straight to Tua.
Yeah.
Like just like we got this in the bank. Just Keyshawn, get out there and just go. Just talk about Tua. Whatever. He didn't play, doesn't matter. Just Tua.
Well, they have a new host. They probably banked this over the week, knowing that there might be problems.
Or they brought them in. Hey, we need one segment filled while they walk from the boat into the studio.
Perhaps.
You guys handle Tua for 15 minutes. Have a good day. Thank you.
What kind of set is Jesus playing at Red Rocks? Like what's his opener?
He's not
The
reading.
hates you would think, right? Water to wine.
I thought it would be a sermon. I thought he was speaking, not really performing. I don't have him doing a concert.
I don't know. It's an amphitheater known for his concerts. I feel like he's got to play like
You've got him on a little guitar, a
some
ukulele.
Godspell, Jesus Christ Superstar,
You've got him doing music.
Christ Be
I've
Our
got
Light,
by Crash Test Dummies.
Be Not Afraid.
At the Seaport, seasonally, you can tell that it's spring when the bodies start bobbing
That's
up to
not
the
true.
surface.
That's not true anymore.
Anymore.
They've cleaned up the rivers.
Well, they cleaned up the rivers because
there's-
every day there's one day a year where all the
No,
bodies bob
there's-
to the surface by the seaport and
That's
they all
not true.
collect them.
I
People
lived
at the
there-
seaport,
I
they're
lived
like,
there for
oh,
years.
today's the day.
No. The East River and the Hudson River went through rigorous cleanup efforts over the last decade, and now there's wildlife returning to the rivers. There's whales, there's dolphins, there's oysters coming back. Different bivalves are in the river, Dan. It's very
I feel like I'm
clean now,
watching an
Mike.
infomercial for the New York.
that was actually when there was the lockdown that whales were back in the bay. But no, there's now dead bodies again bobbing up to the surface. It happened a couple months
Guillermo,
ago.
put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. When dolphins die, do they sink to the bottom or do they float? And let's again examine what just happened here. First take went down because in an orange jacket, Stephen A. Smith, back from vacation, is on a yacht from some sort.
They sank.
They have not sunk. I don't believe you should report that.
You got to go to that if they are sinking. That's good ratings.
They
It
right
was
there.
sink or swim, and
Exactly.
they lost. Yeah, so
we
they
had
sank,
it.
yeah.
We have it
Bill.
on mute, but they did all put on life vests before.
Well, not Stephen A. for some
No,
reason.
but because they were, I think they were laughing at the color of his suit by not.
The life vests were the same color as his suit. Yes.
Yeah. You never do that watching a movie where there's a dead body bobbing around in the pool and they just died, and you're like, that's not how that works. It's me all the time.
I just don't know how it works.
Yeah.
But Mike does.
You've got a lot of conviction that you know how all of this stuff works. I thought we were going to leave it all unstated so it would just hang in the air. Wow, Mike's thrown a lot of bodies. He knows how it is to weigh down a body in a river if it needs to.
Is the poop thing real when a body dies?
I mean, you do pass gas after you die for a little bit, and there's a chance that a little something squirts out.
I saw a thing on the internet that whales explode after a certain point
Yeah.
because like all of the gas or whatever builds up inside them, and they'll just be there and they'll just blow up.
Yep, very true.
Huh.
Can happen with the human body, too.
No, it can't.
No.
Bodies are not blowing up.
Getting
after
carried
death.
away.
Come
Seen
on,
it.
yeah. You have not seen it.
Expected it from Whittingham, not you.
You've seen it? This is your version of look it up. I've seen it, and no one can prove anything.
It's
that you're
better
saying.
than look it up. I
You're-
mean,
you're-
he's seen it and no one
you're-
else has.
There's all sorts of nightmare stories when people are experimenting on cadavers.
What do you mean you've seen it?
There's bodies that move like post-mortem. Like,
That's not the same as body just blowing up.
well, there's just all the gases. The gases do funny things. I bet you Elvis exploded after his death sometime thereafter.
Ron McGill did tell us the story of digging up an orangutan or a chimpanzee and trying to take its skull off because he collects the skulls. And
That's weird.
When he did that, yes, that is weird. Thank you,
So
Bill.
does a predator.
And as he twisted it, its eyes opened and the mouth made a hideous sound. And I think he said he pooped himself.
You know what's wild? Spontaneous combustion. We have this thing in our lives. It can happen. The chances are very slim.
You've seen it.
But people just explode. They just explode. They just burst into flames spontaneously.
That's
Into
not.
flames?
I don't think they
think
burst into
that's
flames.
true.
I don't think people
Spontaneously
just burst
combust.
into
Like it's a
flames.
Ford Pinto. I don't think that people just explode.
I've seen
I've
it.
never seen it on Only in Dade.
I don't think.
And you would have if it were possible.